Sometimes the industry doesn't change you, it replaces you. They said Gucci Mane wasn't really Gucci Mane, that the man who walked out of prison was someone else wearing his face, a body reconstructed, voice rehearsed, mind rewritten. They said his wife was his handler, not his heart, and if you were in the room when he spoke, you'd believe it too. I was. I produced his sessions before he went in and after he came out. The difference wasn't growth, it was deletion. The rhythm was perfect, but the soul was gone, like someone had scrubbed him clean from the inside. The night I realized what really happened in that studio, I stopped sleeping. Because the truth isn't that Gucci changed, it's that he never came back. Sometimes producing for rappers in Atlanta feels less like music and more like managing storms. Every studio night is its own weather system. Smoke clouds, late arrivals, pockets full of chaos that somehow turn into chart toppers. I've worked with enough artists to know that madness and magic usually arrive in the same car. You don't stop the storm. You mic it properly and pray it gives you something worth saving. The first thing I learned as a producer wasn't EQ or compression. It was how to read a room. You had to know when to push, when to fall silent, when a rapper was about to explode into genius or violence. In this city, creativity's currency is chaos, and we get paid to capture it before it burns itself out. Gucci Mane was chaos personified. When I first worked with him around 2010, he moved through Patchwork Studios like a man haunted by sound. He'd record a verse, then wipe it, then re-record it twice as fast, then tell me the second version was for the next life. Nobody could keep up. He'd pace barefoot across the booth, sweat dripping from his temples, mumbling lines like he was decoding radio frequencies only he could hear. People said he was manic, dangerous, unstable. I never saw that. I saw someone fighting to stay human in a business that eats of people whole. There was calm inside his chaos, a rhythm underneath all that noise. It was like watching a man wrestle his own reflection and somehow make it rhyme. One night, he stopped mid-take and stared straight at me through the glass. "You ever notice how the booth feel alive?" he asked. I laughed it off, but he kept going. "It listens, bro. The booth listens. That's why I don't trust playback." He had these moments, quick flashes where the room went cold, like he'd stepped too close to a truth the rest of us weren't ready to hear. Then he'd crack a smile, grab a blunt, and jump back into a verse like nothing happened. That was Gucci before the fall. Unpredictable, brilliant, completely human. The last time we recorded before he went in, he was working on a track he called Reflection Don't Lie. The beat was stripped down. Slow 808s, low piano loop, nothing fancy. He wanted it empty, he said, so you can hear the words hit the wall. Halfway through the session, he stopped rapping and whispered, "They trying to take my frequency, bro?" I told him to rest. He said, "Nah, you don't get it. Once they take the sound, they take you." That night, he left without finishing the verse. I found the project later. Vocals cut off mid-line. Mic still hot like he'd vanished mid-sentence. I labeled the file GU.WAV. When the news broke about his arrest, nobody in the studio was shocked. We'd seen the spiral, the drugs, the paranoia, the online meltdowns. Still, when the mugshot hit the internet, I felt a strange emptiness. Not sadness exactly, more like silence after a long mixdown, when the music stops and all you hear is the hum of machines. He was sentenced, disappeared into the system, and the world kept spinning. New artists came through, same booth, same mic, different voices, but every time I tracked a session, I'd glance at that saved project on my desktop. Reflection don't lie. Something about that unfinished take felt wrong, like it was still listening, just waiting for him to return. 3 years passed. Then one morning, a text lit up my phone from a number I didn't recognize. "You still at Patchwork? Gucci back. Need you tonight." I read it twice. For a second, I didn't know how to feel. Excitement, maybe. Relief. Everybody loves a comeback story. They said he'd been clean, married, sober, transformed. The internet called it the new Gucci, like a brand relaunch. I scrolled through his photos. Chiseled jawline, clear eyes, abs, glowing skin, same tattoos, same smile, but something in the eyes felt off. It wasn't what was there, it was what wasn't. The old Gucci's stare had this flicker, like a light bulb fighting for voltage. The new one's eyes looked still. Too still. Still, I told myself he'd grown. People change. Maybe prison saved him. That night, the studio smelled like disinfectant and lemon polish. Not smoke, not sweat. Too clean. I set up the mic, loaded a few beats. When the door opened, I froze. He walked in wearing designer joggers, no jewelry, no entourage, just him and his wife, Keishia. She smiled like a manager, not a spouse, clipboard in hand, Bluetooth in her ear. Gucci nodded once. "Good to see you, fam." The voice hit me like a memory recorded through a different speaker. Same tone, same accent, but hollowed. Every syllable precise, every breath measured. The old Gucci had rhythm in his chaos. This one had control in his silence. Keishia sat near the console, arms folded, eyes never leaving him. When I hit record, he rapped flawlessly. No ad-libs, no retakes, no jokes. Just perfect timing. Too perfect. At one point, I muted the beat to check the mic levels. He kept rapping. Didn't even notice. His mouth moved to a rhythm only he could hear. Keishia caught my glance and said softly, "Don't stop him. He has to finish the cycle." Cycle. The words stuck to my ribs. When the session ended, Gucci wiped his forehead with a towel and smiled. But when he left the booth, the air didn't shift. The room still felt full, like the sound hadn't stopped. Keishia thanked me, shook my hand, and whispered, "He's better now. Don't bring up the past. It confuses him." That night I sat alone in the control room, staring at the waveform of his new track. The pattern was too perfect. Each verse hit the same decibel peaks, same breath spacing, like someone had studied him down to the inhale. Out of curiosity, I opened the old file. Reflection, don't lie. When I aligned the waveforms, they matched. Frame for frame. Breath for breath. Two voices, one ghost. I leaned back, the monitors humming softly, and realized something no one online would ever believe. They said prison changed him. They said love saved him. They said sobriety made him new. They were right, but not in the way they thought. I'd seen transformation before. Artists reinvent themselves all the time. But this wasn't transformation. This was replacement. And as the hum of the booth settled into silence, I finally understood what Gucci meant that night before prison. They didn't take his sound. They took him. I came back a few weeks after his first post-prison session. The building had a new quiet to it, like someone had turned the city down a notch at the fuse box. The front glass was spotless. The hallway carpet didn't crunch from old snack crumbs. Even the control room smelled wrong. Citrus cleaner, where there used to be cologne, smoke, and fried chicken at 3 a.m. Sessions started on time. They ended on time. Someone had written a new rule on the whiteboard by the booth. Silence between takes. I stared at that sentence for a long minute, trying to remember when silence ever made a great record in this city. They arrived together. They always did now. He entered first, slim, shoulders squared, shades on though it was midnight. His beard line looked like it had been measured with a ruler. His smile was polite and brief, like a hotel greeting. There and gone. Keishia followed half a step behind, not touching him, but close enough to catch a breath before he took it. Clipboard tucked under her arm, phone already unlocked in her palm. She didn't look at the room. She assessed it. "Dim the booth 2 points," she said. "He regulates better that way." "Good to see you," I told him. "You as well," he said. The words landed in even beats. No slur, no slide, no throwaway ad-lib. 2 seconds exactly. He extended a hand. The grip was firm and quick. 1, 2, release. The old Gucci would have pulled me into a side hug, laughed, talked trash about the last take, asked for something ignorant at 160 beats per minute. This version didn't even look toward the snack table. He didn't ask for water. Kishia set 2 capsules beside the console instead. "For focus," she murmured like we were in a clinic. He took them without looking. I loaded a beat. He stepped into the booth, set his feet shoulder-width apart, and lifted the headphones with the care of someone handling lab equipment. I hit record. He delivered the verse in a single pass. No false starts, no punch-ins, no muttered rewrites under his breath. The syllables fell into place as if someone had pre-scored the bar lines in the air. It was good. It was sharp. It was everything a label loves to hear. And it was wrong. I didn't realize how much I missed the mess until it was gone. Old Gucci lived inside bars like they were hallways, kicking doors, checking rooms, knocking pictures crooked as he passed. He'd start a line too early, then ride it like a wave and land dead on the snare. He'd laugh mid-take, and somehow the laugh became part of the rhyme. There was danger in it. Life. The booth had felt alive because a living person was inside it. Now the room felt obedient. I booked the room for a Tuesday. Quiet night, fewer eyes, fewer questions. I told the manager I needed a room from 9 to midnight. No runners, no interns, no drop-ins. I brought my own cables. I cleaned the console myself. I set the mic exactly where it had always stood for him before prison. A 1-inch under lip height, slight tilt, the pop filter at a distance that forced him to lean into it. Then I did something petty and maybe cruel. I pulled up the old session folder and rebuilt the Reflection Don't Lie chain from scratch. Same preamp gain, same compressor ratio, same plate reverb, barely breathing at the edges. I even imported the exact room tone from 2010, a minute of nothing I'd recorded years ago to use as glue between takes. When I played it under a silent channel, I could almost hear the boys laughing again, the careless noise that made the music feel alive. He texted at 8:52 p.m. On the way. At 8:59, the lobby doors clicked. 2 shadows slid down the hall as one, him in front, her half a step behind, the same invisible wire between them that I'd started to feel in my jaw at night. "Evening," Kishia said, professional warmth that never rose above room temperature. "We'll do 3, maybe 4. "Let's do something different tonight," I told them, forcing a smile. "I want to hear him alone, just him and the mic." Her eyes never moved from mine, but I watched her fingers tighten on the clipboard. "He performs best with support." "I'll be right there," I said, tapping the talkback. "No one else needs to be." "When I'm in the booth," she said, "he maintains tone." I looked at him. "You remember when we cut Heavy Smoke? You told me you didn't need a hype man because the truth was loud enough." His mouth twitched. It wasn't a smile, but it knew where a smile lived. He glanced at her, then back to me. "It's all right," he said softly. "I can do this." "No," she said just as softly. "You can't." Silence felt like a sharp object in my hands. I set it down gently. 2 takes, I offered. "No risk. We'll see how his levels are solo. Then you can go in?" She measured the room with her breath. 2, she repeated like an agreement that had already been written somewhere. We settled into positions. Me at the console, him in the booth, her in the producer's chair just behind me. Close enough to reach for the talkback button with a wrist flick. "Headphones okay?" I asked. He nodded. No humming this time. No ritual note. It made the room feel underdressed. I loaded the beat, not the new clean ones. An older loop built on a dirty piano, naked 808 and a hi-hat pattern that tripped every 4th bar like a man catching his foot on a crooked floorboard. I wanted friction. I wanted him to have to catch himself. "Rolling," I said, and pressed record. He started like a machine starts. Breath exact, entry on the 1, consonants tucked, syllables aligned like soldiers. The grid loved him. The grid clapped for him. But there was no swing on the tail, no heat on the corners, No scrape of a human stumbling into a better bar. Keisha leaned forward and pressed the talkback. "Protect the brand," she said. Her voice came through his headphones with a mother's calm and a manager's math. Minimal improv, no unverified anecdotes, no past tense self-references. He blinked. His left hand, which had always talked when he rapped, hung useless and quiet at his side. "Again," I said, forcing cheer, and looped him back 2 bars. He landed. He always landed. "Protect the brand," Keisha repeated, thumb resting on the button like a metronome with skin. "The old you is over." I don't know why I said what I said then. Maybe I wanted to hurt the room. Maybe I wanted to cut the wire I couldn't see. I nudged the fader up on a low bus no one else knew about and let a ghost of 2010 air whisper under the track. Laughs, a chair creak, somebody off mic saying, "You wild." A lighter flick. I watched him through the glass when it hit. Something changed in his shoulders. He stuttered, not on the words but in the space between them, like a foot remembering a crack in the sidewalk. His mouth tightened, and then on the next line he didn't tuck the S. He let it spray. It was small, and it was everything. "Hold," Keisha said, but she didn't hit the button in time. He kept going, rapping like he was tearing through skin. Words bled. Laughter escaped. The booth pulsed with heat and memory. Then she was suddenly inside the booth. No door had opened. "Enough," she said. He froze. The light dimmed. She took his hand. Session complete. When they left, the silence still breathed like the room had learned how to miss him. The email arrived before sunrise. Subject: employment termination, confidential complaint. No sender, no reason, just effective immediately. I read it 3 times, waiting for sense to form. It didn't. When I called the studio, the assistant said it came from higher up. Workplace concern. She couldn't say who filed it. "Concern about what?" I asked. "Your behavior during client sessions." That word, client, hurt more than fired. It meant he wasn't a man anymore. He was property. By noon, my badge stopped working. Security walked me out like we were discussing the weather. Through the glass, the new intern cleaned the mic like a holy object. I called him. Voicemail. I called her. Number changed. By nightfall, my contacts vanished. Texts left unread. 2 studios said, "Management advised we can't book you." Another claimed I'd interfered with an artist's mental health protocol. For days, I replayed his last session. The moment his real voice cracked through the calm. The sound both haunted and proved me. Then came the knock. 2 short, 1 long. Nobody there, just an envelope. "You are prohibited from contacting clients." A note scrawled at the top, "This is Mercy." Every studio smiled, shook my hand, and said, "We'll call you." None did. I'd been erased. At night, I drove past Patchwork and saw a silhouette in the booth. Same stance, same stillness. Perfect imitation. Never human, never wrong. Months later, a showcase I helped build announced new headliners, Keisha and G, the Rebirth Session. That night, I packed my life into a trunk and left. The highway stretched out like magnetic tape. Billboards flashed his new face every few miles. Gucci Mane. The Rebirth Experience. Tagline: "He's better than ever." The radio hissed, tapping out a rhythm only ghosts remember. 2 short, 1 long. By dawn, I stopped at a gas station. His video played silently on the TV above the counter. "Crazy comeback, huh?" the clerk said. "Yeah," I answered. "Crazy." Outside, his reflection rippled in a puddle, breaking every time the wind moved. Somewhere, that perfect voice still echoed. Fans cheered for a man who wasn't one anymore. The truth was simpler, crueler. He never came back, and the world applauded. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every theory. If you believe the industry hides more than it shows, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. because the next story goes even deeper.